Testing 1, 2. So I don't know if I have to give an introduction to this guy to my right, to my left. I'll just say that he's the reason why we are here. Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise first of all for DJ Jazzy Jeff. That's right.
Clap
That's
like
right.
it ain't you.
So that's great. I'm glad we had an applause like that because I actually want to start with the exact opposite. I want to talk about your lowest low as a major artist. That's where we're going to start because we're going to build this thing. If you did not know, my name is Eric Roberson. For those who do not know me, how y'all doing? God bless you. So when you were on Columbia, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, we've talked many times of things not happening to where you might have dreamed. What was the, like you were making money or you weren't making money? What was the not making money aspect? Let's talk about that as a major artist, first and foremost.
We were always making money. We just weren't making anywhere the amount of money we were supposed to. It's everybody has a vision of what they think the music industry is, and it is 100% not that. You find yourself, the music industry really is fake it till you make it. Because a lot of times, people will give you free clothes and you're very grateful because you couldn't afford to buy them. Because it looks, it looks. I walked on stage in New York and accepted a Grammy for Best Rap Album and had $430 in my account. Wow. And, you're like, listen, I've reached the pinnacle. Or so you think.
So you think. So you guys were the first rap group to ever win a Grammy, first and foremost, which is an amazing feat. Only $400-something in your account. You also were sued by your actual label while still being signed. I'm gonna just talk about these for a real quick second because we're getting to the promised land in a second. How were you sued by your own label while still there?
You sign a record deal for a certain amount of albums. We pretty much finished the deal. And in my brain, they hold money in reserve. So I was banking on that money in reserve. That is kind of like, listen, you don't have anything to take that money against. We don't have another recording budget. We don't have any more promotional budget. So hopefully this money is going to end up coming back to me. And then the record company came up with this idea of doing the greatest hits. Anybody in hip hop know that the greatest hits is the death of your career. So it was kind of, listen, I'm 25 with the greatest hits? Nah, we're not doing that. So we sat down with the record company and basically said, listen, we've been signed, for 10 years. We sold over 10 million records. You guys made money, we made money. Will wants to go and act, Jeff wants to go and do music, even though, we were looking to sign another deal with somebody. And we just want to part ways. And they were like, you know what? No one has ever sat down with us and said that, probably because I don't know any recording artist that ever really got to the end of their deal. But they were like, listen, we're going to think about it and we're going to get back to you. And 7 days later, we got lawsuit papers in the mail. And they said that our extracurricular activities were interfering with our ability to make records. And the extracurricular activities were the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, in which we debuted Summertime on. So I kind of think the extracurricular activities benefited them, and that's what they sued us for.
So let's move forward. So we have Columbia Records, we have the whole major. Then you went headed towards the independent by going with BBE and Rapster. Now, there's a level of creativity, I'm sure, of freedom that you gained. What was the gradual difference, I say, from Columbia Records to now going to BBE and Rapster?
Well, after we got sued and basically Will paid the lawsuit off because he signed and we were actually on Jive. Will signed to Columbia. And people often ask, did you and Will break up? I couldn't sign another record deal. After 10 years and that I found out that the Tooth Fairy wasn't real, Santa Claus wasn't real, the Easter Bunny wasn't real, and I was heartbroken. So I was like, I cannot sign my name on another contract because I don't believe in it anymore. I understood Will doing it, and Will had a very good reason because not only did he sign a music deal at Columbia, he was signing a movie deal. So it was all kind of tied together. But I couldn't do it. Always will help him work on his albums. It was no different in the creative process. My name just wasn't on the album. I didn't really care about those accolades. But, I needed a break and was approached, my good friend Kenny Dope introduced me to Pete at BBE because Kenny had did some work with Pete. And the one thing that I do realize, most of the creatives in this room, there are two issues that I feel like people have. Creative freedom and getting paid. Quietly, creative freedom might be more important than getting paid. And what I was offered was creative freedom. So, he basically came to me and was like, listen, give me an album that makes you up as a producer. And I was like, okay. You sit down, figured it out. He gave me money up front to do the album. And we did it and had huge success. Yeah. Creatively.
Right. Well, first of all, I got to thank you for that album because it pretty much launched my career as well. The Magnificent album in 2001 or 2000. It was 2001. It was somewhere in that time. We didn't get paid for it, so I don't remember that time that much. But it was great. It was great. And then we went to Rapster. So let's move now. Now, I remember the Touch of Jazz days. I remember the highs and lows, the ebb and flows of everything. You are happier now than any time that I've known you for the 20 years that I've known you now. Creatively, it seems like you're happier. But also, I think the opportunities are up. Now, what was the main motivation to get you back as being an artist, as being an independent artist? What was the main motivation in that?
I think from the Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince days, I have been fighting for independence. I am somebody that I believe in simple logic, that when simple logic isn't presented, it bothers me, and you have to try to figure it out. Like, I never in my life could understand the simple logic of a record contract. Like, I understand if you mow my lawn and I ask you how much would you charge me to mow my lawn, you say $50. I know how much that I'm going to pay you. You know how much you're going to make. If I say, listen, I'm making $1,000 and you want to charge me 50%, I know how much I'm paying you. You know how much you're going to make. Someone tell you that they're going to give you 10 points, there's not one person in this room that can tell me how much that equates to. Because there's a trickle-down system, and that number can change 1,000,001 times. But think about it. Everybody in the music industry signed that deal. Everybody signed a deal that no one can tell you how much they make from it. And that bothered me. That bothered me the entire time. It's sometimes it's kind of like, okay, shit, I'm going to sign a deal and we're going to work it out down the line. And that's what most people who sign record deals do. I just hope to God it works out.
So what is your thinking plan? So what is the breakdown of how you want your independent albums to be broken down? What is your lawnmower breakdown now?
Well, I mean, you know what it is? For years, I would draw a pie chart on a yellow pad, and I would carve out what people could get and what they should get, and just scenarios like, okay, you give the artist this amount, you give this person this amount, you give this person, and then I really felt like if you include everybody who has anything to do with the album on a percentage basis, they're going to work for it. I know I'm going to work hard. If I know I'm getting 5% of a record and all I need to do is really push it, I'm going to push it because I want my 5% to be as big as I possibly can. And then it starts a lot of dissension. It never made sense to me as an artist. And when I started A Touch of Jazz, I took all my money and I bought a studio. I bought a studio that when I got it in Philly, all of the studio owners came down to the studio to try to figure out what I was doing because it was absolutely stupid for someone to have a studio and not charge for it. Like, A Touch of Jazz wasn't open to the public. And it was kind of like, listen, I want to find like-minded people, and let's get in the room and let's make some music. We're going to figure it out. Yeah. You know, and in figuring it out, the issue that I kind of came across is it's still connected to the music industry. So we might have had all of the creative freedom in the world, but as soon as you go and sign something or try to get something placed, then that's where all of the stuff comes in. Yeah. You know, and it just, you know, it got to a point, you know, signing Jill, having a tremendous success with Jill, and then sitting down with a royalty accountant who broke down how you're supposed to pay Jill, telling me that there's a 12% plastic tax for 8 tracks.
Plastic tax.
Jill's album wasn't on 8 track, but that's in the contract, and they never took it out. So you start seeing all of these holes. It was a $450,000 miscellaneous charge that no one ever had to explain what miscellaneous is. And you realize, you know, that's dinner with that the record promoter took his wife out with because he was in the town telling the radio station to play Jill. And we paid for that. But it's when you start seeing a trickle-down effect, I have to go and tell all of the guys that this is what it is. One of the things that I kept saying, we were all fighting for crumbs. We were mad at each other. Carvin's out there, Vidal's out there, Ivan's out there. We were mad at each other because we were fighting for crumbs. Not one time did we look up to see who was dropping them. We were fighting each other. And then when you step out, you start to realize, oh, shit, that was by design. Make them fight. They're never going to pay attention to us. We were getting 10 cents a record. We never thought about who's getting $9.90. We mad at each other, not mad at the man upstairs. But that's the design. And it just kind of got to a point that what I realized is you have to control the narrative from the beginning to the end in order for it to make sense. You can't go through that at all.
This makes a lot of sense because really, to me, the playlist is A Touch of Jazz without the connection to the music business jargon, right? And I remember an amazing conversation we had when P. Diddy came to Touch of Jazz. And I think I remember the statement. I remember the statement like it was yesterday. You said, "I wanted to work with Faith, but I didn't want to work with all of them." And it was like he drove up with the Bentleys and had all this wah, and he was like, "That's not what we're here for." And it's crazy because I mean, sure the potential was there, but it was so much jargon in there that I think what the playlist now is A Touch of Jazz, but more self-empowerment behind it. So let's get to Chasing Goosebumps. Let's get to what made you decide to crazily make an album in 1 week and live stream it to the entire world.
Well, I want to say it might have been the second playlist retreat that we had STEM come. Yeah. STEM, you know, is a collection service, and they were coming to tell people that if you have videos on YouTube, they can, you know, figure out who put your videos on YouTube and basically take the money and direct it back to you, which I thought was amazing because when you're independent, any revenue stream is great. Yeah. So after they gave their presentation and they went out and sat underneath the tent, and I walked out and was like, yo, this is great. You know, I really appreciate it. I want to sign up because I want you to do the same thing for me. And Shayna said, yeah, you know, we do digital distribution also. And I was like, excuse me? We do digital distribution. And I was like, I don't understand. She said, we take a 5% cut, and we basically take the 95%, and we collect all of the royalties from all of the streaming platforms, from iTunes, from wherever it's up, and we collect it, and we pay it into your account once a month. And that moment right there, I was like, that's the end game. That's the end game. Everybody, just being 100% honest, everybody feels a little funny when somebody owes them money. You know, it's and I know this from the music industry. It's everybody's wondering, did you get the check and you just didn't pay me? So I think the level of comfort that your money goes directly into your account frees up for total creativity. So once I understood that outlet was there, it was kind of like, I think Rhyme Fest, matter of fact, myself, you, and Rhyme Fest did the first song on STEM, which was Mr. Officer. Like, let's just do it, put it up there, see it. You know, 24 hours later, I'm looking, here it goes, it's on iTunes, here it is on SoundCloud and Spotify, and it was like, this is great. Like, so it works. So it's just, you know, okay, so how are we going to test this out? And I called you first, and I said, listen, I have an idea. You know, every January we take off about, 2 weeks, and, thank God, my wife asked me one year, what do you want for your birthday? And I said, I want sessions. And she was just like, what do you mean sessions? And I said, I want to invite a bunch of people here. I want to have a bunch of food, and all I want to do is I want to go in the studio and just do what they have been doing in the studio for the past 2 days. That's it. That's all I want. And everybody came down, and we made 19 hours worth of music that I think we all made a little bit too much music. But everybody was able to kind of get it out. So the next year, I wanted sessions again for my birthday. Right. And I was like, you know what? What I would love to do is, especially, and you can see it in the studio. You can see when you have the level of musicianship, songwriting, all in the room, it's very, very easy to create something. It's very, very easy to create something fast. So I was like, hey, I got an idea. Why don't we try to make a complete project in a week? And I remember I asked you, and you was like, oh, yeah, we can do it. And I started asking producers, yeah, we can do it. We can do it. Musicians, let's go. And I picked up the phone, and I started calling Tico, Carve, Ivan, everybody. Like, it was almost like, everybody that was at Playlist, come on down, and this is the game plan. But it was really because I wanted it to be one goal. You know what I mean? Like, a big part of the retreat has more to do with the collaborative effort because, I grew up when you could not make a record so much by yourself, and now, with a laptop and everything, I think people have gotten so consumed with doing it themselves that we don't collaborate anymore. Yeah. So it's kind of like, okay, we started that at the retreat, but I wanted this project to be a massive collaboration. We sat down and we talked, and I was like, listen, I want to use Glenn. I want to use Glenn Lewis. I called Glenn up. I sat and had a meeting with Glenn and told him what I wanted to do because he had to buy in. And everybody on the project basically had to buy in that this wasn't about them. The goal was to make the best project we could make, together. That, hands down, was the most fulfilling musical moment of my life.
Right. Let me say, and I had to backtrack a little bit because I know we're talking about you as an independent artist, but just this in itself is to me the same way the brilliance of you in Chasing Goosebumps. Let's talk briefly about how you have this small idea that is possibly impossible. It's like, I remember when you first called me about the playlist. Hey, I got an idea just bringing people to my house. Now, first and foremost, shout out to Lynette, because my wife would never.
Listen.
My wife would never have this many people up in our house on our property. Shout out, so just big shout outs. And I remember you said a statement, and this changed my entire outcome and just how I handle business. You said, if I was trying to do a concert on Mars, my staff would have to say, well, let's call NASA. If they said you can't do it, they can't be here. So tell me first, and it's a two-part question, because the same way you do Chasing Goosebumps, tell me about the process. When you sat down, how did you and your team build this from the idea and the conversation? How did we build Chasing Goosebumps from the conversation? It is not easy to just round up that many people, as well as when everyone walked into the studio, they left their egos outside. That's the biggest accomplishment of Chasing Goosebumps, in my personal opinion. But that's the same thing here. And the crazy thing is, I think that there's a lot of us could probably do this, but we don't have the team to do it, nor do we have the tenacity to stay and really map it out correctly. So talk briefly about you and your team, just the mindset to really take these small ideas and keep crushing atoms till you have this.
It's funny, you know, Z-Trip, Scratch Bastard, we're all a part of Red Bull 3 Style. And just watching it grow, you know, Bastard was part of it from the beginning, but watching it grow to the point that they would bring us to a city and we would all be there for a week, you know, and you know, I thought it was amazing. I thought it was amazing in Chicago. I thought it was amazing in Toronto. It really didn't resonate with me until we were in Azerbaijan. I couldn't fucking say Azerbaijan before I went there. I had no idea where it was. But we were, you know, it was probably 20 or 30 of some of the best DJs in the world in this oil country in a hotel overlooking a sea that we were the only ones in the hotel. Like, they rented out the entire hotel. And what I realized is us being trapped on this island together formed a really special bond. You know, it was DJs know, like, you get together. You know, I see Scratch every once in a while. You know, me and Scratch may be on the same show, but I don't get a chance to spend a week with Scratch. A week with Scratch might be very different. You know, we you know, you start swapping music. You start telling horror stories. You start, you know, you cry, you laugh, you know, you bond. And I think we all bonded, you know, in Azerbaijan to the point that I was like, yo, I really want to throw a DJ retreat. The retreat, you know, playlist started out like, I want to throw a DJ retreat. You know, I want to get people, you know, to come to the house. And I remember saying this to Lynette. I remember saying this to Nicole. And I just said, you know, I'll say it. I didn't plan it. I didn't think, you know, this is just an idea. For my 50th birthday, my wife threw me a surprise party, and she still doesn't believe that it was a surprise. I was mad at my wife and Nicole for about 6 months because the covert operation that they pulled off made me question myself. Nicole sent me to London to do a show to get me out of the way. They made me miss my first flight because all of my friends from London were on that flight to beat me to my party. Like, it was really some skullduggery here. But, you know, I walked in and I saw it. It was amazing. The level of detail was insane. And, you know, a bunch of people stayed over. And the way that my brain works, of course, oh my God, this is amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Who the fuck pulled this off? This is amazing. Look at the detail. You know what? In my brain, we can do it. We can pull this together. And we sat down the next day, and I was like, listen, you know we can do it. And Lynette went and got a yellow piece of paper, and Lynette, Nicole, and myself sat around the kitchen table, and we just started writing it out. Like, this is it.
And here we are.
You know? But you know what? And I learned a lot of this from Will. Will is a very good motivator. And I remember, you know, he would sometimes give me nuggets that I would just grab and like put in my pocket. Yeah. And he was the one that he was talking about someone on his team. And he said, you know why he's on my team? And I said, no. And he said, If I go to him and tell him I want to do a show on Mars, he won't laugh at me. He'll say, let me call NASA. He said, if there's anybody on your team that'll laugh at you, get rid of them. And I never forgot that, because you can never make it like something is impossible. And we all had, especially creatives, we are the most abstract people to have someone tell you why you're doing it. Why don't you? My mom still asks me to get a real job. Listen, seriously, my mom, I love my mom to death, but my mom is old-fashioned. My mom wants me to get a job. You know, I pay all my mom's bills, but I still need to go get a job. My mom wants me to drive 60 miles to take her to the supermarket, and when I say, why don't you ask my older brother to do it, she says, because he's at work.
We all can relate to that. We all can.
So, I mean, I understand.
Oh, man.
I understand the mentality. You know, so you have to get people around that you can sit down and have dream sessions. And a lot of times, you know, we talk about it. The reason why this room is so special is because there's a bunch of dreamers. There's a bunch of like-minded people. We are the weirdos to the outside world that don't get it. And it's really cool to be at a place where all of us are not the weirdos. They're the weirdos, you know.
Yeah. Indeed. So let's talk about bringing all these weirdos in. Let's move to M3 real quick. Your most recent independent release. First of all, we've already talked about the collaborative effort. You know, how do you balance it? Like even with when do you know when to wear the production hat? When do you know to wear the motivation hat? Or is it all still production? It's probably, you know, how do you bring certain people in, and how do you give the light nudges left and right to get the end result that you're trying to get to?
I think you have to understand where do you want your end result to be? And then you have to pick the people that suit best to get you there. And the one thing that I said is, after Chasing Goosebumps, I vowed I will never in my entire life do an album by myself. Yeah. Everything that I do from here on out is going to be some level of collaborative effort. Like that, you know what I mean? Like one idea is great, 2 ideas are better, 3 ideas is shit, 4 ideas, you know. And I want as many ideas as I possibly can. You shy away from that. People want to understand why they're not a whole bunch of groups. Where's Earth, Wind, and Fire now? I don't know how 5 people are going to get paid grabbing crumbs. Like, you want to know why we lost our groups? You want to know why we lost our hip-hop groups? Because you want to know why hip-hop artists don't travel with DJs? It gets to the point that this all becomes a monetary thing, that when I have to share those crumbs, and especially as you get older, because then you end up having little crumb snatchers that you have to take care of, that you kind of like, listen, I need all of my crumbs. You know, and I think the music suffers. Like, the music suffers. There's a very big reason why there's a big contingency in this group that samples records that we don't make. We have all of the technology in the world, but we don't make that kind of music anymore, because it's not really about the technology, it's about the mindset. And if we are all in this mindset of screen in front of my face, computer in front of my face, we're never going to make a new Earth, Wind, and Fire record, because they didn't have that. They got in a room together, and it was a collaborative effort.
So one thing I love about you as well is that I think you are constantly the teacher and the student at the same time. You've mastered the art of, I think purposely you placed legends in here with newcomers, and not just so that the legends could teach the newcomers, but for the other way around as well.
Absolutely.
So the 2-part question I have for you, first and foremost, is what would you, as the entrepreneur, as a record producer, and as an artist, want to learn from your playlist colleagues?
Whatever they can teach me.
Whatever.
Whatever they can teach me. Like, you realize that through this journey of life, there's always going to be lessons to be learned. I think the faster that you can get out of the way of learning those lessons, the more they'll come. Because we all get to a point that we think we're the master of our craft, and there's nothing left to learn. And we kind of stop it, and things change. Things change. I bought my mom a microwave. My mom wouldn't touch it. My mom thought it was the devil until I went over for Thanksgiving and put leftovers in and hit 3 minutes and came out with a hot plate. Some people don't want to change what they're used to. The world is changing. The way we consume music is changing. The way we put out music is changing. We were having a deep conversation earlier today that, people criticize the young artists, and the music that they make. Listen, everybody in this room, your first song, beat, DJ set was trash. We just didn't have social media to see it. So, you know what? I'm 100% believer in giving so much leniency to this generation because they have a major microscope. So many of us would not be in this room if we had social media when we were younger. Yeah. So, but you have to understand things change. And I've always said relevancy is paying attention. How somebody's, he's not relevant anymore. Every DJ in this room who may not like the new music that's out right now, if you paid attention to it for a month, you could play anywhere in this world. It's relevancy. It's just paying attention. Yeah. So as the world changes, you have to decide if you want to pay attention and ride with it or you don't. I had a conversation with Rich Magina at the first playlist retreat about social media. And I'm like, listen, you know what? I would always hear, I'm not messing with that shit. I'm not doing it. Nope, I'm not. No, I'm not saying that. That was just Rich. That was everybody. Yeah. And I'm kind of like, listen, if that's the way of the world, you either have to adapt or die. I didn't make up the rule. People get mad when you say that, like it was me. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you have to make the decision. Listen, I know a bunch of keep it real guys. And it's kind of like the older that you get, the keep it real parties are once a week. Then they're once a month. Then they're once every 6 months. At the end of the day, it's kind of like, oh, shit, I can't go out on Thursday because I got to take the kids to school in the morning. Like, life changes. Things happen. And you have to make the decision. I'm 100%, for anybody who stands their ground, but you have to accept the consequences that come with standing your ground. Yeah.
I've learned a lot from the playlist. I learned a lot from watching you and Lynette. I watched you and your staff. And you bring up Richard Medina. I always say, and I told him last time, I said, you're a person I need to talk to more. And I still need to talk to you more. I learned more about fatherhood and just being a businessman and just keep my swag to another level. You know what I mean? So in this, we're seeing so much. This playlist has accomplished so much. Your albums are accomplishing so much. But what else what do we want to reiterate to everyone here at the playlist to make sure they don't miss out? I think, to me, your number one goal is rejuvenation. How do we make sure that, and I say this real quick because I want you to answer the question. I've seen people cry when leaving here, and cry of tears of joy of like what they experience and how much it like amped them back up. How do we continue that? What do you want to make sure people are doing while they're here for the 5 days?
I mean, I think just talking to the person next to you, finding out what they do, who they are. It's really cool when everybody is here for a reason. Yeah. And I need to get to know what you do and, see if we can help each other.
Is that the main reason behind the sample challenge and how you put it together?
Absolutely.
It's actually very brilliant.
There are people who aren't used to collaborating. Yeah. And you kind of want it to, there are some people who are bashful, some people who just have never done it, that you just are trying to get people in the room and, listen, let's work on this together. Yeah. That's why, like I said, you put the legends with the up and comers, you know, and I said that because I never put the legends in the room to teach the up-and-comers. I put the up-and-comers to give confidence to the legends, because as legends, a lot of times we lose our confidence. You know, we have those moments that you're questioning, what am I doing? Am I still relevant? Can I still do this? Do people still care? You know, and putting everybody in the room. There's no age when it comes down to music. Music is good or music is bad. Music ain't old. Music ain't tired. Music is good and music is bad. You know, and it's, you know, I have people in here that I've known for 30 years. I have people in here that I've met 30 hours ago. You know, they're all the same to me. You know, if you put people in the room, which is very obvious. You put creatives in a room, they don't need much. They don't need much. You know, they don't, listen, there's so many people in here have flown first class, have 5-star accommodation. We're sleeping, this is a camp. We're sleeping in trailers.
Right.
But what you can realize is if the trailer is more important than the experience, then maybe you're not for this. Like it's really about the experience. And it's funny because what you see is, especially the people who have come back more than once, it only takes one time to get the experience, and it's kind of like, I'm cool. I need that. Yeah. Like Guru says to me, Guru just left Jay-Z and Beyonce and flew 6 hours and missed flights to get here because he tells me I need this. Like we all, listen, I need this. This isn't, I'm not, seriously, this isn't just for you. Shit, I need this. Right. You know, this is extremely rewarding. This is tiresome. This is a lot of work. We scream and yell, and at the end, we all cry and realize just how beautiful this was, because I challenge somebody to tell me somewhere on earth right now that there's a group like this in this room. Like this is, you know, this is special.
Yeah. So I don't know how much time we have. I know somebody's going to be signaling me shortly. What's your plan for M3 now? I know you did a concert in Toronto, which was absolutely amazing. What's your plan with M3, and then what's the next? I know you're always thinking of what's next, which I'm scared to even hear about. But what's your plans with M3 and what's next?
It's funny, like releasing your own project that you control from beginning to end. You realize that you really control everything. You control the time, the date when everything comes out. But you also realize that it never gets old. Anybody who listens to your music, and this is one of the things that I tell people with social media when I'm kind of like, just don't talk about what you're doing today. If you don't have anything to say, repost something that you did or made years ago, because every time you do that, it's brand new to someone else. You have to do that. Like, don't ever say, I don't have anything to tweet, Instagram, text, post. Just say, in case you missed it, I did this mixtape 5 years ago, and I guarantee you're going to pick up someone new. Right. But because of that, you know, it's kind of like, okay, I thought it was absolutely amazing when Bruno Mars came out with the Cardi B record, how many people were just like, oh, shit, did you hear that new Bruno Mars record? And I'm like, nah, that was on his record 2 years ago. He just did something that we don't do anymore. He worked every record on that album to the point you thought it was new because you listen to Bruno Mars. That's how we consume music. I got it. I listened to it. Oh, my God, I love Bruno Mars' album. 3 weeks later, I'm on to something else, and I don't go back to Bruno Mars' album. And then you realize that he puts out something a year ago. Oh, my God, I loved it. Wait, did I hear that before? Oh, shit, that was on the album 2 years ago. Right. So my goal is to push every song on this project. Shoot videos for every song on this project until I'm done. And then we'll talk about the next project.
Got you. So we're not going to talk about the next Chasing Goosebumps album.
Oh no, we're doing something very special in January with somebody in this room. I'm not even gonna go into it, but yeah, it's going down.
Nice. Do we want to open to the floor if anyone wants to ask questions? Does anyone have a question in general? Guru right there. Do you have a microphone we can pass to? He don't need a mic.
He got that Rich Medina voice.
If you can just stand up though for me,
I
brother.
don't need no mic.
So, and being signed like most people in this room or some of the people in this room, there was a lot of stuff that was done for you without you noticing it. And a lot of times, us as independent, we like to excuse my French, shit on a record label. We talk about the negative things. But when you talk about the things being an independent that you had to fill in,
Oh
the
man.
record company actually did, because my experience of going to independent was, okay, I gotta spend 2 days worried about splits and if everybody got paid. Okay, I gotta stop what I'm doing and do the sample clearance for like 3-4 weeks. I gotta stop everything I'm doing to become a record company and not be independent. It was the first time I was like, I've been shitting on a record company forever, but every department takes care of all these things. And I think a lot of times people in this room, we're really good at the creative part, but we get mad at people that are lower than us creatively, but they outwork us with this other part. So if you can speak on that experience of like, what do you have to go through and put your team together to actually do the extraneous part that's not creative to promote your album in a time where everybody's friends is their television on it.
I mean, it's my issue with the record company had more to do with the payment side. Like they do a lot of shit. I think it was an equal. I've always said that if record companies were 50-50 partners with their artists, I don't think anybody would have the right to be mad with all of the stuff that they do. But like Guru said, it's very different when it's kind of like, okay, we finished the album and we mixed the album, and it was kind of like, okay, I turned in the credits, and then it's kind of like, oh shit, we got to take pictures. Like somebody did that for me. You know, who designed the cover? Like, damn, we got to do that. Like, who what about the clean and the dirties and the acapellas and all the rest of that? You know, what about marketing and promotion? You know, there are a million things, you know, and, you know, I did a sample-free album, which, you know, was great, but I can only imagine if I sampled trying to track down, you know, publishers and clear a lot of this stuff. And, you know, you have people that kind of look at who you're associated with, and that's the price that they give you to clear something. And it's kind of like, I ain't got shit to do with Will. Like, why you giving me all of this? You know? But there is a million and one things that you have to do as an independent artist. Like, you understand that you opened a clothing store, and you not only have to get there in the morning to open it, you have to sweep, you have to, you know, take the sign out the window. You have to wait on every customer. You have to talk to all of the manufacturers about bringing in the merchandise and pick the merchandise that comes in, figure out your schedule, your sales. You have to do everything when you're an independent artist, and you have to decide if that is something that you want to do. It's real. If you know, I know people that are kind of like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do all of that. I'd rather sign to somebody and let me get paid what I'm gonna get paid. You know, I am not anti-record company. I'm anti-crook.
So, do we have any other questions, real quick?
Yeah, can I ask one?
In the back.
Just real quick.
Oh,
I mean, just to piggyback off what Guru was saying.
if you could just stand up real
yeah.
quick, though, too.
Just to piggyback off what Guru was saying. How do you feel about grooming people to be in those positions? Because what my partner always talks about is like, you know, some people, like you said, can deal with the independent route because they can deal with all the business aspect of it. But some people need somebody else to do that business, because if that business didn't get done, they would never get paid or be the artist that they were. So, and to speak to it, if I had an executive like you in the building, I would feel a lot more comfortable with you there because you understand the artist's plight. So just speak. I want you to speak to, is there a space to groom the business people on what artists really need to be in those offices to take care of what artists need and pay them correctly? Is that something that you see happening, or is it, no, fuck the industry, we want to be independent and build our own thing?
Well, I mean, what was great is when the brother Tuma gave his conversation earlier, and he talked about being a rapper who started doing internship at a record label. Not everybody is going to cross the finish line in what they want or what they want to do. There is more jobs off the stage and behind, off the stage, out of the studio that people need, from a photographer, from a publicist. There are so many aspects of the business that can be filled in. Everybody's not going to be your favorite rapper or your favorite producer or your favorite singer or your favorite musician. Some people have no musical talent at all, but they have all the other intangibles that are needed. And I think you need to seek them out. Sometimes I got a friend who's got a couple rental properties and he knows how to manage money really good. And you pull him to the side and say, hey man, let's learn this shit together. You're not gonna always walk out of the door and find, and I said from back in the day, most of the people that signed record contracts did not have a business person in front of them. You had an uncle who was a plumber. He was the most successful businessman in your family, and you showed him the contract. He read it. He understood 3 things in it, but that was the best that you had. That's real, not going back, but a part of the design is I'm going to give you this. You're getting a record deal because you're trying to change your financial situation. I don't know too many people who got a record deal and had enough money to go to take it to an entertainment lawyer who charges you $400 an hour. So you take it to your uncle. Seriously. And trust me, they know that. You're going to take it to your uncle. You're going to sign it. I had a person in this room that someone offered them a recording contract, and they sent it with someone else's name in it. He reached in the drawer and pulled out the contract. He thought it was the blank contract, but it had the other person's name on it. So that just goes to show you how much of the number thing it is. But sometimes, like I said, it might be your friend. It might be, you got a crew, and this guy is great at graphic design, and you know what? You're going to do the covers. I think that's what excites me about the younger generation, that you see them and their friends, you watch these guys, and sometimes we have a tendency to criticize, but you watch these guys that'll get a video camera and use iMovie and shoot a video, and it ends up with 25 million views. And you got the dude with the Sony Red camera that wants to charge you $50,000 to shoot a video that 4 people like. It's the same thing. It's how many number 1 records are made with Fruity Loops? There's nothing that you can discount. Right. You know what I mean? Everybody pays a lot of attention to the tools and not the outcome.
Mm-hmm. One to add on to that as well is that the industry is changing so much now. Based on the demographic, no one knows what's going on anyway. So we're all learning. Right now, it's changing so quickly. I mean, the industry, how we promoted the album 5 years ago is totally different than it is now, But I practice something called process over product, and you seem to be another one as well. How much do you focus on the outcome, and how much do you focus on the process of going through what you're going through?
I think, there's nothing that you can do to stop the process. You can't cut. You can't cut the process. Most of your lessons come from the process. But I think what you really have to kind of focus on where you're trying to be. I'm the metaphor king. Life is an Uber ride that you get in the back of the Uber, you really think that you know. Everybody in this room think that you know. You think you know exactly where you're going. The only thing that you can do is tell the Uber driver where you want to go, but you have to let that ride happen, because a lot of times, more times than not, we kind of end up in North Philly and not in Miami Beach. And not that North Philly is worse than Miami Beach. It's just not where you thought you were going to go. And sometimes we go to our graves stomping our feet mad that it didn't turn out the way that it was supposed to, and it actually did.
Any questions real quick? Amen. We got a question right here in the middle.
Just off of the idea of change, you're talking about how the industry changes, technology changes. Do you think that there are any aspects that have remained the same that won't change? This is kind of an opinion. Thanks.
You know what I think remains the same is the appreciation for good music. I think what changes is I think what changes are the platforms. You know, I think, you know, there was a point in time, you know, Laura Finesse and I talk about this all of the time. There was a point in time that you would turn on the radio and you would hear Freddie Fox and you hear Laura Finesse, you hear Lords of the Underground and Tribe Called Quest. And then all of a sudden something changed and they start playing something else. And then something changed and they start playing something else. Do you think that Laura Finesse can't rap? Right. Do you think Bumpy Knuckles can't rap? Like, we started to look at the platforms as that was validation for the people. Yeah. There's a lot of people in this world. Laura Finesse just came back from Russia. Yeah. There's a lot of people in this world that still like good music. And I think the one thing that won't change, like, is the appreciation for that. Even if the outlet changed. Because sometimes we have a tendency to think, okay, it's over just because. Listen, I do close to 160 dates a year, and I bumped into a radio guy from Philly, and he put his hand on my shoulder and was like, "Jeff, it's so good to see you, man. Like, what you been doing?" And I'm laughing because I'm kind of like, yeah, I just came back from China, but I realized he's on the radio every day. He only sees that, you know, and you can't let that validate you. You know, I have so many conversations with people here that, because this gathering isn't about chart position. It isn't about record sales. This is a gathering of people who are dope. I don't care if one person, I don't care if nobody in this room knows that this person is dope. The thing that you can rest assured is the person next to you is dope. And you need to find out about their dopeness. But a lot of it is to encourage the people in the room to understand, like, you didn't win a raffle to get here. You got here because you were dope. I want you to know that you dope. And I want you to continue your dopeness. You know, playlist is a dome of dopeness. And as you see with the lot next door, the dome got bigger because we got more dopeness.
The dopeness is growing.
And that's really it.
I love it. But I had to bring that line back again because we had to make a T-shirt. The person next to you is dope.
That's it.
You need to find out about their dopeness. That is like, that was my goosebump moment right there for this interview. I thank you for that. Any more questions? Anybody have anything?
Yeah, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Jeff. Y'all don't know me. I ain't gonna fall backwards like that. So, you've been like the most famous person in the world for a period of time, right? You come down, spend all your money on me and other people. Gave us opportunity. Then you made that journey, figured out how to market yourself, remarket yourself, rebrand yourself, become independent, have an independent spirit. These are things that Kenny Gamble told us to do a long time ago. But if you were to look at a new artist today and honestly say to them, one is better or worse, what would you say? Because there were a lot of great things. And I ate a lot of dinners off of that Jive budget, you know. Took a lot of trips, did a lot of things. And there were a lot of experiences that came from being inside of a major corporation, right? Being a part of that. I think Drake, Travis Scott, what's happening to them in the past month, that's major corporation participation, right? I don't think that's independent per se. So if you're an independent artist today, if you, Jazzy Jeff, were not the legendary guy, but just a new artist, what path would you choose? What would you aspire to have? Would you want to just be, I'm super independent M3? Or would you be like, I want that Drake money. I want Apple Music to blow me up. You know, which one would you want? Because I think the complicated thing about your message for a younger person is like, yo, that sounds dope, but that's Jazzy Jeff saying that, right? And he's eternally attached to Will Smith in my mind. That's what that person is saying. So what do you from an honest perspective, what do you think that young person should be aspiring to do, or what would you have done if you were in this moment now?
Well, one thing, I didn't have the option to make a choice. Like I you know what I mean? It's very similar in basketball. Like everybody wants to talk about how the old legends wouldn't have played together. They didn't have a fucking choice. Like I guarantee you, if Michael Jordan could have played with Charles Barkley, he would have played with him. He didn't have a choice. Like things evolved and people had the ability to make a choice. But I think what that decision has to come down to the individual. What do you want? Eric opened up saying, I've never seen you as happy now. Listen, I made all of the money in the world and I was fucking miserable. Like when you have a chance to decide what's more important to you. If I was trying to buy a Bentley, I'd try to go for the Drake Apple, the Apple deal. Yeah, I'm fucking trying to buy a tractor. I want to be independent. It's where I'm at now. Like I'm not speaking, and I'm not saying this for the room to follow. All I'm saying is you have to look inside yourself. I've always said you have to be honest. I remember telling Carve down at the Touch of Jazz that I felt like I'm the most lied to person in the world because people would never come down and say, yo, I'm trying to be rich. Everybody was like, man, I'm doing it for the music. Listen, trying to be rich is great. The easiest way to get rich is being honest and saying that that's what you want to do and going after it. Saying, I'm doing it for the love and I'm doing it for the art. And in the back of your mind, you're trying to be rich. You're lying to yourself. The quickest path to get to any way or anything that you want is just being honest. So I think as an artist, you have to look like, what am I doing it for? What do I want to do it for? And also understand that maybe that changes. I wanted a Bentley back in the day, and it changed, But it's just, I think, being honest. And I think that's the message that you would tell the up-and-coming. I'm not telling you what path to choose. I'm telling you you need to sit down and weigh out all of your options on what it's going to be. Because there's some people that taking that road, it's worth it for them. And some people it's not. Some people it might be worth it in the beginning, and then it changes. Listen, and that's, what it is? I feel as though that, first of all, you can actually make more money. You can actually make more money being independent. You're just not going to get the accolades for it. And sometimes what people want is to drive down 95 and see the billboard. Like, that's what you get. Oh, man, I'm a plaster you all over. I'm going to do the Kiki dance because, it's all over Instagram. But then again, ask yourself, how many people have become famous independent on the internet? Like, that's the level playing field. Yeah.
Sorry. I just because that's where the world I'm from. Yeah. And so we had heaps of people in Australia that did get support from the streaming services and everything as independents. It kind of blew their mind. Like Gautier, that record, somebody I used to know, totally independent. He got sued heaps for the sample, but he made a lot of money for performance.
Sometimes it's good to be sued.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good.
Sorry, Jeff, to cut you off. It was just
love
like
it.
sometimes it's like.
No, I'll add a small thing to that as well. And I think, we've been in the industry for a long time. We've saw so many people close to that moment. And what I would say is that, Travis Scott, first of all, that Travis Scott is not guaranteed for everybody. So yes, you do need to understand, am I trying to be rich or I want a Bentley and things of that nature. And then it's also, can I succeed in this music business? Can I make a living? Can I take care of my family doing what I love? And I think it's different asking that as a 20-year-old, as a 30-year-old, as a 40-year-old. But you have to really understand what you want. And we know too many people that have sold millions of records and are very unhappy. And they have money. And they get on stage every night singing songs they hate. And that's the last thing I want. I would trade Bentleys and mansions just to trade that one thing. So I do get what you're saying. And yes, it is great to have those Drakes and those Travis Scotts, but not all that's guaranteed. At the end result, the question I used to ask for probably 20 years, those times driving back and forth from 95, coming to Touch of Jazz, or taking those horrible meetings in New York, was, is this going to work? Is this going to work? And I think more importantly, not to shit on major labels, it's not to wait on them. Everyone's here dope. Everyone's here incredible. Everyone could be the next Travis Scott. It doesn't hurt to be that Travis Scott, but don't wait for someone to make you Travis Scott when you have a platform to build it. And we have a person right here who's showing you an enormous platform right now. So we're getting a signal. We're getting a signal. I want to say this first and foremost, which is a great opportunity. So I went to Howard University, proudly, HU, but Touch of Jazz was my grad school. And I will be a perfect example of telling you how much this is the most selfless person I know in the entire world. I showed up at a Touch of Jazz one day. I never signed a contract. I never did anything. I stayed there probably 4 years. I cut hundreds of songs, 4 rooms with a producer in each room. I never left. I was never asked to leave. I was never asked to sign anything. I was never asked to pay a rate of any kind. And I remember an amazing story, and we'll use this in closing. I remember this day like yesterday, and this was the turning point of understanding Jeff. I can't remember who it was, but we were trying to get an MP drum machine, the kick drum in the A room, to sound like the MP. So one guy's in the drum, boom, 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 hit it again, boom, boom, boom. Add another pillow, boom, boom, boom. 2 hours later, put some tape on it, boom, 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 boom. Ah, that still ain't that. Well, move the mic. And Jeff walks in, and I go, oh shit, we in trouble. We've been wasting hours, What y'all doing? We're trying to get this to boom, boom, boom. Hit it again. Doom, doom, doom. He's like, cool, y'all close. And he just walks out. And I was just like, that was me down. It was me down. It was me down. It was me down. It was me down. And I was like, we're not in trouble? He just wants us to be better. He wants us to be better. I'm going to say this without crying. Thank you for making me better. Ladies and gentlemen, DJ Jazzy Jeff.
Thank you.